All right. No. Yeah, I know. He's done. Wow. Good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. This meeting is being held with the benefit of public notice as required by the Open Public Meetings Act. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll? Here.
Ms. Phillips? Here. Mr. Carabelli?
Here.
Mr. Reparo?
Here.
Mr. Todd?
Here. And if everyone would please rise for the salute to the flag, and if you would remain standing for the invocation. Lead us, Pat.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please bow our heads. Heavenly Father, please guide this council body to do what's right and just for the citizens of this township. Let us follow your many examples of love, compassion, and generosity. In all these things we pray in your name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Okay, so this is a special meeting of the Hamilton Township Council. We are here tonight to review the defeated fire district budgets for District 6 and District 7. And what I'd like to do, we'll start with Fire District 6. And is the chief here? Chief, do you want to get us started with a statement? Any comments that you want to make regarding your budget?
In the words of Joe Marcucci, it's the best budget I ever submitted. But in all seriousness, as you folks know, I've been involved with the consolidation effort since day one. This budget clearly reflects that. This is a minimal budget. It showed a 2% increase across the board. It uses fund balance where appropriate. And there's really no line item that's out of line whatsoever. It is consistent. It's been designed to work into the new Hamilton Fire Department.
So you have no items in your budget that exceeded the 10% increase?
Well, Joe Marcucci's here. He could explain the budget more thoroughly than what I can. I mean, if you were to look at the line item, the rip sheet, the worksheet, it'll show that there are items that are in excess of that 10% mark that you're referring to. But there are also some that went down below that threshold quite substantially. So if you look at the budget in its entirety, that we're well where we need it to be. And I can explain any increases, as to Joe with the fire commissioners. A couple things that you need to understand about Fire District 6 before you evaluate this budget. First of all, everybody will come in front of you and tell you that they're the busiest fire company in Hamilton Township. They don't have the numbers to back it like I do. Okay, Hamilton Township District 6 is the busiest special operations engine company in Hamilton. We're running in excess of over 1,800 calls a year. We have multiple shared service agreements in place, two with District 8, District 4, where I see the shared service chief. So you'll see a revenue in that budget worksheet if you take a look at it. We also have software shared service agreements for our firehouse mapping, or firehouse reporting software, Power DMS, which is, as you know, with the township you're familiar with. A couple of the other things is that we are one of 4 Hamilton Special Operations companies. We do everything from collapse, water rescue. We actually, one of the big things that we do, along with Station 12, is we do active shooter. We are one of the Mercer County Rapid Response Partnerships, and actually I head that effort for the Hamilton Township Fire Department, and I oversee all the Hamilton Special Operations. So everything within this budget that you see, when you say, is there an item that I could cut? If you were to look at my line item, there are the ballistic armor that goes into our vets. They need to be updated every so often, and there's budgeted money for that. We try not to fall behind on those things. The other thing that's important for you to understand is that with the way that the elections have changed, with the mail-in ballots, I think that it's hurt us. If you truly look at the voters that come out that are vested, not to take this the wrong way, the voters that really would have come out and vote for the fire district budgets, they show up. And it was a gorgeous day out to vote. And overwhelmingly, our budget passed in-house. It was the mail-in ballots that defeated our budget. And just keep in mind that we are only one of two budgets that taxpayers have a vote on. The school board, which always continues to have an issue, and the fire districts occasionally. But this budget, as it sits, is bare bones. There is no fat that you're going to find. We are down to the bone already. And those here, if you need him to explain, and Commissioner Quinn and Commissioner Manowar.
Yeah. So before we get to questions, obviously the budget didn't pass. And I appreciate, your remarks. My one question for you is, do you have any suggestions on savings that we can implement in this budget?
So if you're looking for items that you wish to cut,
Yeah.
the only thing I would caution, and perhaps I'll throw the assistant business administrator under for a second, is, or you two folks sitting on the committee, we have a budget meeting tomorrow for consolidation. How, and depending on what these cuts are that you're looking for, how will that affect us moving forward? I don't want to delay the application. Let's be quite honest, is we have substantial savings to the taxpayers moving forward. This was an unforeseen thing that nobody in the fire district saw. We have provided a service without, this is the first time in District 6 our budget has ever failed. Am I correct? That's correct. So that really tells me something. This is just for whatever reason. So that would be one of the things I would caution. How would that hurt us moving forward with consolidation? What that's going to do budgetarily? If you tell me that I need to try and work with the commissioners and the accountant to cut some funding or cut some projects, if I need to, yeah, I could cut maybe one or two items. But that's probably about it. I mean, I'm not sure what kind of cuts you're looking for. I could probably do somewhere around $5,000 to $8,000. That would affect, the computer line item or out of some fleet improvements that were budgeted for. One of which was my truck was due for new lighting and things like that because the truck's in excess of 11 years old. That would be an example if that's what you're looking for.
Can I get in? Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
You had a question first. I don't
So-
want to jump.
What I was hoping to do was get their suggestions before we start making our suggestions. So if you guys want to ask questions.
Well, I mean,
go
he sort
ahead,
of
but I
hit
was-
on something that I was just going to say. I saw that one number increased by, I mean, it's only 5,000, but I saw that one number. I marked it down here for the budget from the adopted of 2019 for 2020 proposed budget. And one of the things that I don't have in front of me is how much was expended from that in 2019. So I can't make a determination of, I don't have that in front of me. I just have what was proposed in 2020 and what was adopted in 2019. That was the one item you mentioned on computers.
Right. So
Yeah.
one of the things that we've tried to do, every one of the chiefs, when we work together, what we try and do is we take what was identified in the study as a deficiency for the department moving forward. One of the things that we've identified is an ID system. Being able to do our own in-house IDs like you have for the township. Also, we use ours for accountability tags on the fire ground. So one of the things that I'm offering, if I needed to, would be it's $3,200 for an all-in-one ID.
ID.
That's
What
really what that was for.
What
Okay.
page is that on?
That's
That's
on,
on my rip sheet. That's on the budget
If
that I
you could-
submit to the fire commissioners. If you like, I can give you I have two highlighted items that we just referenced, if you'd like to see these.
and that was if you go on F3, I think that would fall under the line of computers, materials, supplies in here,
That's correct.
right?
So the areas that I'm referring to would be, if I look at the budget that the board has put together, operations would be under repairs and maintenance, $4,000, and computers, $3,200.
All right, so let's see. So the first item, I'm looking at page F3.
I don't have this.
Chief, is
Oh,
it?
there it is, computers, materials.
Yeah, we're looking at a different sheet. This is under F3 on the appropriation schedule.
Computers, materials, supplies.
It just shows a 6.8% increase from 2019 to 2020.
There should be, the next page should be
Oh.
an attachment to the F3 and F4.
Oh,
Sorry,
okay.
F3. That shows the computers and software, 17,845.
Okay, yes, I do.
So it's on the back of F3, I guess this is breakdown.
Joe Marcucci, 85 Blue Court, Hamilton Township, accountant for the board,
Mr. Martucci, thank you for joining us.
just so elated to be here.
Martucci.
Marcucci.
Marcucci.
That's right.
Okay, now I got it. All right. So thank you for joining us. All right, so I'm looking at the budget attachment. For us, it came on the back of page F3. I see computers and software.
Right, 17,845.
Yep. And there's an increase of 4,774. Is that what we're talking about?
Now, where do you see that, on page F3?
On page
F3.
F3, it
That's a
shows,
combination of all those line items.
Correct, yeah.
okay.
There's material, supplies, and uniforms. So that increase of $4,000 reflects an increase in all those line items.
That's part of 17,845.
That is correct.
Okay.
It's part of just the 17,845 or the 74,524?
74,524, right.
Okay, so only a portion of that 4,000 comes out of the 17.
That's right.
Okay. So,
Can I
Chief,
stop you for a minute?
yeah.
I don't know where we're going with this.
Well, I'll tell you where we're going. I'm looking for you to suggest to us areas that we can save money for the taxpayers who rejected your budget.
Okay, let me.
So that's where we're going.
Let me say this to you. You can cut, and I'll use your term, the budget, without reducing the amount to be raised by taxation. Think about that for a minute.
I'm thinking about it.
This budget was funded not
Not sure
only
how it
with
helps us.
taxation dollars, but it was funded with fund balance money. So if you talk about cutting the budget, you will not necessarily mean cutting the amount to be raised by taxation. And that's a key point here that you have to consider. So if we're going to go line item by line item and say, well, we can take $3,000 out of computers, we can take $5,000 out of repairs and maintenance, I can take $8,000 out of this budget and not impact the amount to be raised by taxation by $1.
What do you suggest?
What do I suggest?
Yeah.
Based on the fact that you're going through consolidation here, and you're talking about a department-wide, well, let me say this to you then, Rick. Let me say this to you then. I've gone through this with a number of towns, and there's been a number of cases where the town council has not changed the budget at all.
I don't think that you're going to find support for that here. What you're going to find support for is that we want to be careful because we are in the middle of consolidation. So we don't want to do anything that wouldn't be prudent, but at the same time, we want to be respectful of the voice of the voters, and we want to come back with an improvement to the budget that they didn't find acceptable.
Okay, so let me say this to you. Since the fire district budgets on the tax bill usually are, okay, fire district number 6 is 23 cents, 2 decimal points. Okay? If you take anything out less than a penny, the tax assessor may still raise the same amount of money, it just won't come to the fire district. Think about that for a minute. If you got 23 cents on X amount of tax rateables, okay, each penny raises so much in tax dollars, okay? If we're at an even number, and let's say, remember, let me see, a penny here raises $147,000 in tax.
Roughly, yeah.
If you cut $10,000 out of the tax money, the tax assessor is still gonna raise the same amount. The only difference is it won't come to the fire district, it will go to Hamilton Township, and the taxpayers won't save a penny. You shake your head no.
I think I understand what you're saying.
Well, can you explain it to us, Chetty?
Well,
Do you understand it?
Well, it sounds to me, correct me if I'm wrong, right? if you took if you cut the budget, let's just say even $20,000, right? It's still not gonna have an effect at the end of the day on the original 23 cents,
That's right.
right?
The tax assessor eventually is gonna have to determine with the county, to determine what the actual tax rate is. If the tax assessor determines that they're still gonna raise 23 cents, the same amount of money is gonna come to Hamilton Township. The only difference is the 20,000 won't go to the fire district, the 20,000 will go to the Hamilton Township fund.
So in reality then, right, at the end of the day, is you'd have to have major cuts in the budget in order to
It
see
would
a
have to be
savings,
raised by taxation, I'll go back to that.
right?
You'd have to cut a penny out of the amount to be raised by taxation. A penny per tax rate.
So when you buy a gallon of gas at the gas station, they charge you a fraction of a penny. There's always 9/10 on the, they don't just disregard that 9/10, because over the course of the value of a house that's worth, on average, I think in your district, around $220,000, that fraction adds up to real money.
Sure.
So I'm having trouble understanding that it's not going to have an impact if we make a cut.
That's fine. That's your position. My position is that if you're going to have a 2 decimal point tax rate, and the amount that you're gonna raise.
So if it makes no difference in how much, then why'd you do it, raise your rate by 0.03?
Why do I raise a 0.03?
Yeah, if it makes no difference in the amount collected, then why raise your taxes by that amount? If it makes no difference, then why raise it by that amount?
Well, 0.3 means you're gonna raise $300,000.
But you just said that that fraction
The fraction would.
doesn't add up to any real money for Hamilton Township, so why raise your rate by such a small fraction?
No, I said it would make a difference to Hamilton Township. It wouldn't make a difference to the fire district or the taxpayer. The taxpayer is gonna get charged the same money.
I'm looking for cuts. I'm looking for ways to save the taxpayer money on this budget.
All I'm saying is you've got.
Do you have any suggestions on things that
We
we can
spent four
cut from this
four
budget?
meetings that we went through the chief's budget, we went through contracts with the employees, we looked at every line item, and this is the final budget that the town, fire commissioners decided was necessary for them to run their fire district.
Councilman Caparo, what question did you have?
Do you want to finish on this, or can I go to my question?
You said you have a question.
My question is for the chief. I heard a call, you might have to leave. You mentioned body armor. Do you guys get grants for that? Because are they available to firefighters as they are police officers?
Very limited, especially with the way the regulations are. So what we've done is the county was supposed to provide some of that for us, and there was a delay. So the district took it upon itself to buy about $8,000 worth of body armor, so that we could get that task force up and running.
How many years has that been spent?
We spent that 3 years ago.
Okay.
And right now, we actually are working with Lieutenant Moore in West Windsor, and we're one of the, how do I say this? Probably one of the leading drivers for that initiative, and we know that we have 2 companies that can respond immediately to help them repair.
Okay. Have we explored any possibilities of getting those through grants?
Absolutely. Moving
Okay.
forward, absolutely. The problem is right now, we're fire districts, so, the way that we try and approach that, we have to do regional grants in order to get something like that approved. Because right now, if we were to turn around and say, I need $10,000 in body armor from somebody other than a private donor, you're really not gonna get the input. My goal was to work, as we consolidate the fire department, work with Hamilton Police to try and get improvements in both our body armor and theirs.
Okay.
Right now, I'm running level 4 rifle plates. Other than the SWAT, I don't believe anybody else has that level, so those officers know where my equipment is on the rig, and they have the ability to take what they need. So, again, the budget is what it is because we need to make sure that we have the resources to move forward. There are radio upgrades because the radio that we're working for, and that was in the budget, that I actually had to cut out already. And what you should know is I cut $25,000 out of equipment request out of that budget already. And those were for the new radios so that we had better interoperability. And it was a hard decision to make, but that's really what we've worked for.
How many vests do you have, and when are they going to expire?
So we have 5 vests that the district bought, and we have 4 that the county provided. The county, we bought our vests 3 years ago, so if we go with a 5-year life on those, we'll be budgeting for those for replacement for next year in the fire district.
Okay.
Yes, as far as the county would be responsible for the other ones.
Okay, so at least,
They're only level 3A, so they're only providing soft body armor for low caliber weapons. The ones we bought far exceed that standard.
understood. Thank you.
I just want to, Chief, if you don't mind, I just want to build on that. So what I'm hearing you say is that the grants that you would like to apply for, when it's consolidated, those would be grants you could apply for in order to get those upgraded vests. Is that correct?
My understanding is that and we've had a few grants, we were able to get awarded a safer grant.
Yeah.
What you need to understand, and I believe that you do as a teacher, is,
Yeah.
There's a large pool of candidates that want these
Mhm.
funds. And when they see somebody that's only requesting $5,000, $10,000, that's going to be dismissed because those grants are designed for the larger municipalities that are trying to provide an enhanced service that can't really find the money. What I end up doing is I'll cut another, out of another line item and make it work. So we try and balance our budget. Like this year, I'm slated to replace one of the truck computers. They're not cheap. So in order to, be able to fund the body armor in another year or two, well, that replaces that computer item. So if you look at the history of the way that I do budgets, and I've provided that to the mayor before, is typically, I'm a 1-for-1. This year we do a 3-year uniform replacement. This is the year that we're come due for uniforms. We haven't had any uniforms at District 6 in 3 years. So that's, if you were to look at my line item budget, we're $17,500, but we need those uniforms.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the types of things. So I don't just throw things onto the budget. I try and do a 1-for-1 replacement, and it has served me well with the board moving forward. I've been the chief there since 2012, and I've been writing budgets with them since 2005.
Yeah, that's what I was just clarifying too. It's, at this time, this is the best, what I'm hearing is this is the best we can do without having the larger group to be able to apply for such a grant. Yes, okay.
Hey, Chief, with overtime, in 2020, the proposed budget was 500, I think it's 555, 470.
Okay.
What do we expend in 2019? Do we know that?
I would have to pull that number out.
Page one.
Well, Joe's getting that number.
I'm looking at F4, I think that's where it's at, right? Am I wrong?
What's the number?
At F4. It's embedded in 3, so I can't, right? Pat?
From 19?
Eileen, right?
Sorry, what are you
F4,
looking for, Anthony?
overtime, F4.
Overtime?
Yeah, I didn't bring it with me.
Salary?
I can't give you overtime expenditures, but I can give you the total salary expenses, which include overtime.
Yeah, that doesn't really break it
Well,
out
pretty
though.
much that, everybody needs to be replaced. There is no,
No, I get that. It would be helpful if it was
well,
delineated.
budgeted $1,869,000 and spent $1,875,000 in total salaries. So basically, we spent everything that
We spent everything that was budgeted.
Yeah.
What else is included in the uniforms and personal equipment gear that totals $38,290?
So that is the lease purchase for a turnout gear, which we cannot cut. We have a financial obligation to. that is NFPA compliance items. So replacement for boots, masks, gloves, hoods, and the turnout and the personal protective gear that we talked about, the uniforms. That's what that totals.
Chief, this is in addition to what we have planned on in the budget that we're proposing for the consolidation as well with the gear and things like that. Just help me understand. This is something that Whitehorse needs for right now, immediately, and
The issue that it ran into in committee was that budget line item was cut pretty drastically. And if you recall the last meeting.
in the subcommittee, you mean?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I had to ask for it to be back up to, I believe it was 155,000, because the number it got cut to didn't even cover the lease purchase agreements that we were obligated to pay. As far as the uniforms moving forward, I believe off the top of my head, I believe there's only like maybe $40,000 budgeted for uniforms moving forward. We're on average about $1,000 per person to replace. We run Nomex, which is how we're able to extend the life of that. If we did cotton, just to put it in perspective, you may save maybe about $200 a person, but you're going to be replacing that gear or that uniform every year because cotton's not designed to hold up. The Nomex that we run will last us for 3 years. So everything that we do is with a purpose. So one of the things that was interesting is we could use the part of the $2 million for uniforms, I believe. That was one of the things that Mr. Monzo had reported to us. Which, you know, if we're looking July or January, yeah, I could make that work. But if we go beyond that, I'm afraid we could be right back here, and then I have a contractual obligation to provide uniforms also. So it could open us up to agreements.
Tell me about the 18,389 for material supplies, hose, radios, EMS supplies. Did you touch on that already?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
So the materials, equipment, and supplies, those are basically $5,000 that I put aside with Joe for equipment replacement, something that's broken, a radio, something along those lines. The rifle plating, we have the replacement of ropes and webbing, and in this budget this year, I asked for replacement of 45-minute cylinders, so I need 6 of those. And again, our SCBA cylinders expire, and we have some that are coming up on their end of life. So that's what you're saying are those numbers. And our EMS budget is relatively stayed flat, I think $4,000 or $5,000 for about the last 10 years.
So Chief, you, said you could, can you explain why you can afford to cut 4,000 from the computer budget again?
Well, it's an ID system. So it's printing out the cards where we can identify our people, and I'll just continue to do those on computer and laminated. The goal is to move forward and do those things for the whole department moving forward.
Can I interrupt? Would that be something that would be available, though, with the consolidation process? So that would be something that we could push forward into the new department?
Absolutely. No disrespect, I've been consolidating for the last 30 years, so until somebody tells me that I have a letter that I'm consolidated, we have to do as we've been directed, which is business as usual, and that's what we plan for. I still don't know, I'm hopeful July 1 is going to happen, or
Me too.
where we are.
So, it's an ID system, and it's something that can be deferred.
Yes.
What was the other item that
The
you were?
the improvements on my committee.
I'm sorry, would you say, Chief? I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Can be deferred.
What could be deferred?
The ID
4,000?
system, the $4,000 for the ID system in the computer line item,
Okay.
it could be deferred. So what is the other item?
The other item I would offer back would be under the equipment and repairs, which would be the upgrades to my unit, which would include updated lighting and a revamp of the box that's in back. Last year, we were able to replace the slide out.
What page? Can you direct me to what page, in this,
It won't show on there.
what line on this is it, referencing now?
Probably under repairs and maintenance. So the one item will come under repairs and maintenance, the other one would come out of computers.
How much are we talking about?
Again, you're looking at.
No, I know, I saw that one.
Operation,
$7,200.
I see operations and maintenance.
No, it's the 122 that's listed is a piece of that.
It's a part of that.
A part of that is a 7,200.
So, I'm sorry, Chief, how much are we talking about on that item?
7,200.
It's 72 for both items or the
No,
one?
that is collectively.
Collectively.
Take the ID system and take those upgrades and remove the budget, $7,200.
Yeah, we need to know.
I know it may not seem like a lot, but when you're dealing with this budget that's already been cut, and I'm just afraid anything else may hamper us moving forward.
I guess my other question is, I would like to see, just to know what the amount that was paid out in overtime in 2019. I'd like to know that.
Sure. One of the things that you have to keep in mind also is that because of our function of where we are, near the White Horse Circle, we're one of those critical has to be covered fire stations. So what we do in our overtime budget is we budget for snowstorms, we budget for callbacks, we budget for the training, workers' comp issues. We had, I think, at least 2 long-term IOD injuries, which, you know, you'd be remiss if anybody's budget, you could tell me who could fund IOD injuries within the fire district budget, but we do it. And that comes
no, I
from
understand.
sick time, so that'll run that number up. You know, so we budget for training overtime, which are mandatories that we require them to go to.
I'm just trying to find something, because we haven't had that much in the way of snowstorms this, just trying to find.
Sure, what we don't use in snowstorms ends up being with, we've had a busy fire season already, so we've had to do some callbacks, and if there's extra money in that, then we'll put it over toward training.
So, Chief, the number that was, or, Mr. Marcucci, the number that was, I believe, provided to the Fire Consolidation Subcommittee regarding the overtime budget was that you budgeted for $464,000 and spent a total of $417,000.
I'll take your word for it, I don't have the document in front of me.
I mean, again, based on what Anthony asked, we actually overspent the total salary budget by $6,000.
No, I understand that, but it would be helpful just to know that
I
individual.
can't give you that information until I get back to the office and pull the payroll records.
So how did the subcommittee get this information?
I provided it to him from Mr. Marcucci.
Okay, but just at this time,
I don't have it in front of me.
you can't speak to it.
Right.
Okay, so what are we looking at in proposed overtime this year?
555. That's a big difference.
So it was budgeted for 464 last year. We're at 555. So from 464 to 555, and what was spent last year, according to this document from the subcommittee, was 417, 446.
Okay, so what I can tell you about overtime budgeting is that we only budget for a percentage. So if I was to truly budget, which I showed the district how much our liability is, and I did the same thing with the mayor and all when we were in committee, is we're technically on the hook for probably about $5 million worth of monies with the overtime. If we were to fund the vacation time and all the sick hours, those monies add up quickly. So what we do is a cost average of the sick time, taking into account that we may have 1 or 2 injuries. And basically, we're rolling the dice with that. We don't have a choice. That's the way that balances out. So you have people that have more time on the job. So we had some people that had gotten an increase in vacation time. Everybody got an increase in their sick time because those banks collect.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but you're using the overtime dollars then to, how's the overtime play a role in that? Explain that.
Sick time?
And sick time and vacation and stuff, yeah, what we were just alluding to.
So it has to do with the hours. If
Okay.
I was to show you the total liability, actually, I have that.
Can I ask a question while he's looking for that? Where
All
did,
employees are replaced. So they're getting their salary, plus the individual coming
Come
in,
in,
take over
gets-
the overtime, is now getting time and a half.
Time and a half.
Hours.
where did the 555 come from? Because the only number I have is the 464.
That's the number that I have here. I don't know.
It's, let's see, what, it's F4. F4 in this year's. You got F4. You got 2 million. And then-
Is that right? Am I saying that right? It's 555 is proposed, is that right?
Yeah,
You
that's
have to
fair.
understand that we had a contract and a lot of the employees who were at the bottom range jumped us. So the average overtime rate has increased from 2019 to 2020.
From that to this. And the number we have
Bill,
that
to
day.
answer your question, what the liability is, by my numbers, it's almost $1.1 million is what our liability is. It's actually, $1,159,593. If I was to take every vacation hour, every sick hour, personal day, anything that we're responsible for, including holiday, that's what that number is. So we take a percentage of that and really we figure out the sick time, and that gets averaged out. So just to put it in perspective, the overtime numbers are not out of line when you're dealing with minimum staffed companies. We're always, like Joe said, we're a one-for-one replacement. We don't have excess manpower, and we can meet a number quota in order to respond. We have to replace whoever's out.
Anybody have any questions for these two at this moment?
I guess, in talking about averages, sorry, this is really loud tonight. How many are we talking, how many are in the company, I guess, is in this district? How many
Including myself,
employees?
there's 17, or 16 that are assigned to operate, the operations side that are suppression oriented.
Okay, so no given time, you don't have more than 4.
We have to maintain 4.
Four, maintain
If
4.
we
There's
have more
no,
than
it's
4,
not like you're operating with 5 and if one guy was out sick, then you're okay because you got 4. You're basically, in a sense, you're almost
It is
understaffed.
divided by person, the increase.
And remember, we were 3 for the longest time. We wrote a SAFER grant, which we were awarded, and then we
Right.
funded that grant, which is unheard of in this day and age. So,
Are there any commissioners here from District 6? Do you wish to, add anything?
Can I ask one follow-up to Chief before?
All right, so you know what, actually, sorry, let me just, Chief, before you sit, we'll finish up with questions from, my fellow members of council. So Councilman Pipero?
I think what they're looking for, if I hear my council, partners, is the increase. Do you know what was budgeted for 2019 for overtime? I know 464 was used. Do we know what was budgeted? Was it more or less?
was it,
So 464 was the budgeted number and 417 was the amount used
In 19?
in 20,
No,
Or in 20?
in 19,
19.
in 19.
Is this it right here?
He's got the answer. I'm waiting for
I
it.
can't see what you're holding in your hand.
I can tell you it's 508.
yeah, I'm pretty proud of the way that I managed it.
508, yeah. 508, 232. if you want.
So we budgeted for 464 and went up to 508. Is that fair? So I think what they're getting at is if it was 464 and went to 508, I think they're just looking for an explanation on why it's at 555.
Some of that is rates. Some of that is because salary increases.
I'm sorry, you're gonna have to go to the microphone before you look them up.
Some of that is because of salary increases. Like I said, there was a new contract, there was raises made, there was across the board, and the hourly rate now is increased over what it was in 2019.
I understand. I just looking for an explanation for people that were having difficulty.
I'd just like you to look at the revenue item too, and see how much revenue the shared service agreement, me as the chief, brings into the fire district. So if that wasn't in place, this may be a different conversation. So I just want you to take that into mind. We've done everything we can to try and provide a service and limit the impact to the taxpayer.
I understand. Thank you.
Chief, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that last part? I didn't
I'm a
understand.
shared service chief. I have
Okay.
3 districts
So you're
that I'm
saying- yes.
responsible for.
Okay,
There's
I got you.
revenue that gets generated by us for the services that I provide by
Okay.
not sleeping.
Yep,
Yes.
We appreciate that, thank you.
I got you.
Just like to make one comment back to the tax rate for a minute. When we did the 2019 budget, we actually struck a tax rate of 22.69 cents. Okay? The actual tax rate that's on my tax bill is 23 cents.
23 cents, yep.
There's a difference there of 0.31 cents that went somewhere because it was raised with the 23 cents. It didn't come to the fire district because we can't get any more than what we,
Can you do me a favor and can you just give, President Tyler a chance to sit down and restate that?
Yeah.
It'll clear up a lot of the confusion now that things have settled down. Can you please restate that?
okay, we're back to the tax rate for a minute.
Okay,
Okay?
Found a more clear way to say it.
all right.
The tax rate that we struck in 2019 was 0.2269 cents. The actual tax rate on the tax bill is 23 cents.
Mm-hmm.
So based on the tax assessment, it was raised, the tax assessment times 23 cents. Now, the fire district didn't get that amount of money. The fire district only got the 3.274 million that was approved in the budget. The difference of that .031 came to Hamilton Township and is sitting somewhere. Now, I can also tell you that there's a good possibility that that difference of that tax money went to a different fire district.
So in that instance, they rounded up.
They rounded up, correct?
Can
Now-
you point to an instance where they've rounded down?
Yes, I can. Since Rafferty and Kramer were in power, the fire district number 5, which always had the highest tax rate, was given a 2-cent decrease, and that money was taken from all the other fire districts that raised more than the allotment that they were allowed under the approved amount to be raised by taxation. So if there was any money between all of the fire districts, that money was moved over to fire district number 5 to keep their tax rate at a lower level because they were always the highest tax level in Hamilton Township.
That happened during Rafferty's time.
Happened till today. It's happened since Rafferty's time, is what I'm saying.
Is that they round down in District 4?
Well, I don't know where, I couldn't tell you where the tax assessor does that. All I can tell you is he or she looks at all the taxes, decides where the money is, and then moves money around to each fire district to even out the tax rates.
Okay. So when I'm looking at your tax rate for 2019,
Yep.
I see .2300. And in this,
Well, that was the actual tax rate that was struck by the tax assessors. That was not the tax rate that we submitted as part of the budget. The tax rate that we submitted as part of the budget was .2269.
was .2369.
.22.
226.
2269.
That's correct.
And so they collected .23
That is correct.
and they gave you the 2269?
That is correct. They gave us the $3,274,982.
And according to what you're saying, and we're not gonna vote on your budget tonight because we're gonna talk to the CFO tomorrow and we're gonna verify how exactly this works so that we make sure we have a perfect understanding among the 5 of us of exactly how this works.
Absolutely.
So what you're telling me is that your proposed rate, according to the document I have in front of me, is .2309
For 2019?
for 2020.
No,
No.
no, there's,
Tax rate for the district in 2020.
it's
I'm looking at the-
.234.
.234, correct.
So I think the numbers that you're looking at are the numbers that the tax assessor struck in February of 2020. This is what, yeah, the numbers that you're talking about are what was submitted to DCA, am I?
That is correct.
All right, yeah. So that was the numbers that were submitted to DCA. But this is the numbers that you are looking at are the numbers in February of 2020 by the tax assessor.
You're both talking at the same
Oh, sorry.
time. I'm sorry, I just can't. So, what are you telling me?
So, the amount that you're looking at, the February 2020 numbers, I'm sorry, I'm not talking to the microphone. February 2020 numbers were the amount that the residents of that district were taxed, which is different. There's a difference, a discrepancy from the amount that actually was proposed in the budget that was voted on by the voters. Am I correct?
That is correct.
That's what was submitted to DCA.
And what's the number that,
That's the number that the tax assessor has verified, has confirmed that that's the value, that's the tax rate based on the residential values of the homes in that district? Yeah,
All the real estate.
yeah.
I'm not clear on the discrepancy between this number, which says tax rate for the district in 2020, and this number over here, which says proposed tax rate per $100 of assessed valuation. So I'm not understanding the discrepancy between this number and this number.
The discrepancy has to do something with I'm assuming with the residential value and the slightly
Residential
value
actual-
of the properties that the tax collector, the tax assessor has now
We
identified.
get the tax assessment in October. That's when we get the tax assessment from the township tax assessor. Now, from October to when the final numbers are done, I couldn't tell you, when days change. All I can tell you is that the amount to be raised by taxation can't be any more than what the voters voted on.
Right.
All right.
So we're submitting
Yeah.
something
We're
to DCA.
we're not here looking for ways to raise the tax rate.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if we struck this tax rate of .234, and the tax assessor says, we're gonna make the tax rate .24, we're not gonna get the additional money.
You're really not looking to cut the tax rate. That's $147,000. We've never done that,
Yeah.
right? So, are there specific documents?
Provide our office, and council can then further review things and come back Wednesday.
Well, let's just continue to do our work here. What other questions?
Here's my vote.
Who else has questions?
I'm listening. Keep going.
I mean, you don't have to have questions. I'm
listening. Go ahead.
all right. Do the commissioners want to get up and shed any light on what's been discussed today?
My name's Anthony Lanswano.
Hi,
Fire
Anthony.
District 6.
Thank you for joining
960
us.
White Horse, Summit Square Road. I think you're missing the point. I think you're collecting as a fire tax. I think you're saying like, I'll just use $1 million. You're getting $1 million from District 6. But our budget is only $800,000. You're keeping, in other words, you're saying the township's keeping that extra $200,000. I think you're missing that point.
I get that.
But that's why I feel like the way you're talking up there, you're missing that point where this money is. I mean, we did everything right. We did our taxes. We didn't go over the cap. We did everything right. We went into our surplus.
Yeah, we're not questioning that you did anything wrong. That's
I
not,
understand that.
that's not
Two
the
votes,
issue
and
here.
people have the right to vote. But it's your job to take money, you're trying to take money away from us.
We're trying to be fiscally
Right,
responsible.
and I can remember years ago in one budget where you took, it wasn't you guys, you took a shed away, that was it. I mean, I don't know, you're asking us.
Yeah.
What are you looking for? How much are you looking to take away from us?
You are the experts on how your district functions, so we want to take your input into account
Right.
in the decisions that we're making.
All right, and here's a question the other way. Right now, what's going on in the country? Say something happens with this virus, and our district has to spend $20,000 for stuff. Where do we get that money? We come back to you, and you guys are all going to say, okay, it's coronavirus, we're going to give you the money.
How has it been handled in the past when you've had a shortfall?
Excuse me?
How has it been handled in the past when you've had a
We
shortfall?
never had a problem like what's going on right now. What happens in this case? If we
A
have to spend
hypothetical?
more in our budget?
You're asking me to talk about a hypothetical.
Well, I understand it, but
How long have you served as a commissioner?
15 years,
So how many times in that 15 years have you come back to the township for money?
never,
Okay.
never. I understand, but we did everything legal,
How many times has your budget been rejected?
never.
Okay. So it's the
And-
first time for everything.
I know there's a first time, and we're the second lowest in the township. I don't understand it. I just can't understand it. And I know it's up to you guys, and you guys gotta do something, but, I mean, what are you gonna do?
We're asking for your help
Right. And we're telling you we can't do
because
nothing.
my priority is to make sure that your operations are not in any way disrupted.
Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, you can't take nothing away from us.
That's,
And I know you have to.
that's
do
your
something.
opinion.
I know you have to do something, but I don't think it's right.
Okay,
That you should take something away from us. Thank you.
okay. Any other commissioners here from District 6 who wish to comment? Yes, sir.
Keith Quinlan, 1786 West McCalliard Avenue. I think, this is the first time, of course, that we've been up here. I'm the board chairman. I've been the board chairman for quite a few years. A little bit about the background from me is been a volunteer also over 30 years and retired Trenton fireman for 25 years. So, Rich, and man, I'm telling you, we've been lucky to have him with our district. And he works very hard, and we have a lot of conversations above and beyond all the meetings that we have, and the hours that we put in. And of course, with our accountant also. So we do look at every item. I mean, we're very thorough, and you can see in all our past budgets, I can just tell you, just from like 2010, we really haven't gone up hardly anything except for percentage points. So, we are very frugal in our district. We support him with his ideas. We were the first district really to start EMS with the fire department, and we took hold of that because we thought there was a need in this township. And then everything else that we've allowed him to start with being special operations. We're very lucky that we've been aggressive with that, and we've allowed our members to train and do other things. So that's one of the things where our overtime you're looking at, and you're looking for numbers. When our guys are training or going to schools for days or whatever, we have to replace them. And we've actually asked our own employees to, if they're on their day off, they don't even get paid. They actually volunteer their time. Unless it's a day off that they need, that they're scheduled to work, we give them, of course, we give them off for that class. And then we have to replace them. So they're even our employees are even spending their own free time to help this township. And I just want to say that little bit of, about what our job is to do. And our taxpayers have been more than happy with everything that has been going on. And like I said, this is the first time we ever saw this, our vote get, shut down. And I give Rich a lot of credit and the board.
Me too. I give the chief a lot of credit too, by the way.
And just so you
Nobody's
know-
here saying the chief doesn't do an excellent job. We
And,
appreciate the
he's
chief.
taken on 2 other districts on top of it. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you.
To add to that point, I want to make it clear that we're not on opposite sides here.
No, absolutely.
I understand how it may look or how it may feel, but I'm not sitting on the opposite side, and none of us are sitting on the opposite side of the table, okay? We're all together in this.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we are where we are, but we're going to work it out together, just like the consolidation and everything else. We're going to stand together, and we're not going to be divided.
I
So I
agree.
just want to make sure that that's clear.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Are there any members of the public wishing to comment regarding the District 6 budget?
Are we definitely not voting?
No, we're, If we can come,
Real quick, just a question that, one of the commissioners, I apologize. You were saying, there are times, for instance, it's your day off, and there's training. So that firefighter will come in on their day off.
Yes.
For no compensation to do training on their own.
And what we do is.
There's no compensation?
There's no compensation.
Okay.
We approve that, but they're still covered underneath insurances and everything else. So we approve it so they can still do the training. And that's a dedication factor that is unbelievable. I mean, I did it in the city. I worked on Rescue 1 my whole career, and I did a lot of hours and weeks and, time myself, because the city didn't have the budget. And that was an agreement that we made. But that shows the dedication of the manpower of this station to do things like that. I don't know what goes on in other districts, but we do that. And, we're thankful for our men and women on our job.
so you, before you get to that, on this document,
Yes.
if any of you can help me, find an item in here. There is you are purchasing or proposing to purchase, a cascade system this year. What is the cost of that system?
$45,000.
$45,000, and that's to refill the air
Yes.
bottles.
And not only it's our bottles, but whatever other township districts that don't have a cascade system. Our district does a lot, I don't know what we still do, with the state police. We fill their bottles, when they're diving or in the area. So, we try to co-op with everybody and share service with everybody.
So you currently have an air pumping
Yes,
system?
yes.
It's operational?
It's operational, but Rich will enlighten me a little more on the details of the mechanical issue with that.
So the air system you're referring to, the Cascade, is new to 1986.
Oh, the one you currently own?
Correct.
Okay.
The only thing that was ever changed was probably about 20 years ago, the blast cylinder had to be changed because of compliance issues. When the Air Power International, who does the service, tells us that we're spending basically good money, nickel and diming a machine, that's what it came down to, was us needing to make that improvement. So right now, if 15 is down, we'll fill their cylinders. We fill station 13, we fill station 19. We also do a shared service agreement for oxygen, which is also part of a fill. We do fill the New Jersey State Police tactical teams, their new armored vehicle that they use. So, and this enhances that, and it will also free up some storage. It's mainly coming down to us spending about probably, I think, $1,700 a year in maintenance.
Right now?
Correct.
So how many districts currently have a system for refilling air bottles?
Off the top of my head, probably other than the ones that I named.
Several.
The other ones, yeah.
Several have them, several don't. And there's a system for getting the bottles to the districts that have the systems, filling the bottles, and then picking them up. Is that correct?
The crews bring them over, we fill them as fast as what we can. Yeah.
And you're spending about $1,700 a year
In the service contract, not counting repair of parts, what the parts are. That's just for them to come out and do a
Preventive maintenance.
annual testing on the air system, and the air quality test, and just coming through to make sure all the valves and everything are working properly. Any repairs, we get a reduced rate because of that contract, but that doesn't count for any of the parts.
So would that expense go away as the result of buying a new system, or wouldn't the new system require
The new system, I
maintenance
believe,
as well?
has a 3 or 5 year warranty on it. Off the top of my head, I don't recall which.
So for several years, you would save that expense?
Correct.
Now, you have a truck that's 1 year old at
2
this
years.
time? It's 2 years old. Is that still under warranty?
No. Some parts of it are. There's a 10-year body warranty. The motors are good for 3-year warranty, but the general manufacturer warranty has expired. That's a 1 year.
So it's a 1-year-old truck,
2-year-old truck.
2-year-old truck. Is it fair to, how old was the truck that it replaced?
It was a 2005. That was 12 years when we replaced it with over 110,000 miles on it. Told you we're busy.
You got good use out of it.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
The truck already has over 13,000 miles already.
I understand that on an older truck like that, the cost of maintenance and repair can be upwards of $70,000 per year.
It can be, absolutely.
So with a new truck, isn't there a savings to be realized in the cost of repair?
There is, but if you look, we have 2 reserves. And we were listing 1 truck to sell a surplus this year, but that got pulled out of surplus when another district sold their truck. They went and sold I believe it's a 1980s Telesworth that's up for sale. So what's important is that one of the other shared service agreements we have are with other districts to provide shared service with apparatus, so that we don't have, there are 14 fire engines in Hamilton, 2 of which are listed as reserve. We're now down to 1 because we have a couple other new trucks coming in. On average, we probably are in a reserve truck 1 or 2 per day, because things, even whether it's selective preventive maintenance, whatever it is, there's always a need. And then if I don't have enough apparatus set aside for when I have to do a callback, maybe we can't get coverages or something like that. That's why there has to be an ample reserve of the fleet. So to answer your question, our repair budget was not diminished to the point where you would probably expect it with the new rig, because we're maintaining 2, and we have a shared service agreement that we provide those reserves to other units other districts as they need it. So we've been ahead of the curve for a while.
What's the equipment and repair budget this year? What's that number?
So what did it go up to, 122?
You're 122.
And that reflected the Cascade unit that you were referring to.
122,000, and that includes the purchase of the Cascade system. What was it in 19? 71. So,
Don't forget, you had the $4,000 in the lighting upgrade and the box configuration on my truck. There was also an upgrade of lighting, interior lighting in the compartments for the truck that we referenced. It was a 2005. Those compartment lights are in need of replacement. So there was about, I think, $5,000 or $6,000 allocated for that.
yeah, it comes to 51, more than in 19. So the Cascade Air system, being that there are several systems throughout the township, yours is still operational. Is that something that could be deferred for a year?
If there's a commitment from the town to buy a new one, yeah, absolutely.
Well, what the commitment from the town is to complete consolidation this year and then assess what efficiencies we can derive.
By whose assessment? Me as the professional, or somebody that just is going to look at a sticker on the side of it? Not to be disrespectful, but I'm being honest. I wouldn't have put something in a budget of $45,000 if I didn't think that it was cost effective at the time to do it now.
Yeah.
There will be another increase that comes along with this. It's the same thing that happens with apparatus. I had a heck of a time getting a fire truck. That fire truck you referenced through the previous administration. And every year that we defer that payment, it's a 12% increase.
Every time you defer which payment for what?
In the apparatus, for example, that was a 12% increase. It took me 2 years to get that truck through.
The truck that's 2 years old?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So just to put it in perspective, I mean, we could defer that Cascade unit, absolutely. Will it be more expensive when the township needs to replace it? Absolutely.
You're saying the cost of that goes up at a rate greater than the rate of inflation?
There's no way for us to know that. Depends on the price of the raw materials and what it costs for them to build that. Labor
Right.
costs and anything else. So I couldn't answer that. It's
But-
hypothetical.
Because we're going into consolidation, and we do want to be prudent, this is something that it seems like could be deferred for a year, because there are several systems throughout the township, and there is that sharing of that equipment, and there's a system for doing so. Your equipment is operational.
It is.
It does the job.
And we maintain a service contract because we weren't sure how the budget was going to fare.
Sure. And that'd be a savings if we did it now. The 1,700, we'd be able to save that, right?
In the future, the 1,700s is right now.
Okay.
I'm not going to undo the service contract. That has to be maintained, otherwise we'll probably be paying 3 or 4 times.
So we would maintain the $1,700 a year service contracts for the new equipment as well. So there actually wouldn't be any savings on the new equipment as far as the service contract is involved that goes into maintaining that.
Right, the only savings that you'd be referring to would be to remove the cascade from the budget.
And the savings from any additional costs, right? So for instance, right now you have $1,700 plus or minus whoever you're paying in maintenance. But anything else goes like, and I'm not sure about a cascade unit, but it must have compressors, right?
It does.
Compressor goes, you got to replace the compressor.
And that's
It could be,
really
it could be $3,500 to replace that compressor, correct?
It could be more.
Could be more. I'm just giving numbers out there. So technically, in a sense, yeah, it costs 40-some thousand dollars for this cascade system. You're still going to pay the 1,700 plus for the maintenance on it, but you're also going to save because you've been spending X amount of dollars per year on top of that 1,700 to pay for maintenance, additional costs.
Absolutely.
Now, my question would be is how many other, do we know roughly how many other districts have these cascade units? 2, 3?
Several. I don't know the exact number.
There are several. There's
But
probably
it's, we don't know right now,
5 of
in
them.
these other 3 budgets that we're going to be looking at, are there any cascade equipment being purchased by them?
Neither 8 nor 7 are purchasing cascade systems
Okay,
this
so
year.
that's good, you looked into that.
All right,
But we don't know about the other one.
okay.
I'm sorry, just to piggyback on that too. Yeah, just so I'm clear, so this would be a brand-new system, and that's what Councilman's saying. So you wouldn't have the additional possible costs of a compressor going, say, I mean, it's not guaranteed. Things aren't made the way they used to be, right? Also, I think you did mention that because of the shared services, some of that is used outside of your district. Is there any revenue that comes in because of that, that compensates for some of that money?
Approach the other districts that we fill centers for. And Chief Anazeski retired, but we had that conversation about whether or not they have the ability to provide funding for that. That was District 3. And at that point, until the budget passed and we knew what that firm number was going to be, they're open to that,
Okay,
to be honest. They are, but we haven't explored that beyond that.
okay. Did you guys happen to hear that?
What was it?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, Chief, for them to, I was just asking if any revenue would be coming in the future as other districts are also using their cascade system?
It's possible.
It's possible. Is there any revenue currently being generated by your air pump
No.
system? Okay, so there's no revenue.
I know,
Other
I just-
districts probably about, $80,000 because they don't have their own. So,
Okay. I think it's something that could be deferred for a year, Chief.
well, the reason why it was put in the budget, regardless of consolidation, is because that's a critical fire station that, in my mind, isn't going anywhere. So, given the repairs based off the vendor that we used that made the recommendation, we didn't take it lightly and we acted on it.
Yeah.
That's fine. If the council believes that's one of the items to cut, then I would please ask that that be the only item that we cut. You're talking $45,000.
Gives us 45,000 in savings, right there.
But I ask that the other items please go back in.
The 4 in the ID system and the 72.
Even if they're not purchased for the ID system or the repairs on that, if we have to do other updates, I'd rather have that money in the budget to be able to move around. If I need another computer that needs to be replaced or the server, we've already had to do a Windows update that we didn't plan on. But luckily, because I budget for things, we're able to eat that Windows 10 upgrade. It was almost $1,100-$1,200.
Look, Chief, I mean, just my, many times with you, I know you have I know you know what you're doing. And, your responses tonight to some of our questions, show that you do operate, on a fairly lean budget. And I can appreciate that. I don't want you to, this is council president's discretion, but I would hate to see you have to come back Wednesday to, so I feel comfortable voting on the one cascade system if we want to pull that, for 45,000.
And then passing the budget as it is.
I don't know how my colleagues feel, but.
I'm comfortable with that.
So
What does it actually, $45,000, by cutting that from the budget, what does that actually do to the budget as far as the taxing?
It's not going to do much.
It doesn't do much, correct?
No, it doesn't, but, I mean,
Are we just,
Less than 0.5%.
right.
it's going to be 45 as a third of a cent. I already did the math, so you're not talking much. But
Saves us a third of a cent.
Doesn't we appreciate it, when you're taking into consideration, we only failed by 2 votes, and it was because of mailing,
yeah,
so.
I know.
We appreciate that, Chief, and, you know, you've demonstrated your knowledge, of your operation. There's no question of that. I believe that when we have the administration looking at this issue, as a part of consolidation, the decision makers, as far as who's going to be deciding, it's going to include you, it's going to include the administration, and it's going to include this council. So, this is kind of like a preview of the, consolidation. There are a lot of efficiencies that are going to be realized when consolidation happens, but we're not there yet. And so therefore, my suggestion is, if the chief can live with deferring this for a year, I'm comfortable with the rest of the budget, if you guys, are comfortable with that.
Just to clarify, so that puts $4,000 back in for the ID system? And that puts the $7,200 back in for the lighting the box on your truck as
We'll
well?
put that back in. Want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the budget as amended.
Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Mr. Carabelli?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Whalen?
Hesitantly, can I give an explanation?
Yeah.
I think a lot of work goes into these budgets, and I commend the chief for the time and with his commissioners along with the accountant to go through this, and it seems like they've done it line item by line item. And I understand, I look at safety first and foremost for our firemen and women that serve our township. I also look at an item like this of $45,000, yeah, to the savings. At the end of the day, next year, we're probably looking at the same thing. It could be 55,000. We're going to be in a different situation, I'm sure, hopefully under one umbrella by then. But if the chief is okay with this and he can live with this, I can live with it. But I just got to make sure that he's okay with it. And it sounds like you are.
That's okay. The district will make it work, we always do.
Okay.
Mr. Sheriff?
I'm going to vote yes, but I'm going to vote yes, I also have a comment. This consolidation is going to happen. We've moved forward together, and we will work on getting whatever equipment you need for the future. The town will save in the future, and it is because of your willingness to sit at the table and work together with us. I look forward to the meeting tomorrow, where we can continue pushing this forward. I do vote yes, and I appreciate your willingness to help the taxpayers of the town. Thank you.
Mr. Todd?
Yes.
This is 5-0.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thanks, Commissioner. Thank you.
Can we,
We're going to take a 5-minute break.
Okay.
Oh, you're looking at the wrong one. The 122? Yeah. 45. Okay. We'll create another one. We'll go into that blank. The sheet has parlay to it. And that's the
Oh, jeez. You need a copy to read the entire thing into the record, or?
I didn't bring my portfolio. All right.
No, not right now. So you're just going to need to...
Go ahead and get started again. We all set, Allison?
Yep.
Okay. So we have a resolution fixing the annual budget for Hamilton Township Fire District Number 6 and certifying the amount to be raised by taxation in support thereof by the Hamilton tax assessor. The budget proposed in the election that was rejected by the voters was $3,864,959. We've identified savings under the 2020 appropriations schedule, cost of operations and maintenance, other hydrants, utilities, telephone and repairs. We were able to reduce that from $477,200 to $432,200. And therefore, the budget for Hamilton Township Fire District Number 6, based on the foregoing adjustment, is fixed at $3,819,959, and it is further resolved that it is hereby certified to the Hamilton Township Tax Assessor that $3,408,714 shall be raised by taxation to support said budget. And do I have a motion to accept that resolution?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to accept that resolution.
Second, please.
I'll second that motion.
Madam Clerk?
On the motion, Mr. Whalen?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Carabelli?
Yes.
Mr. Reparo?
Yes.
Mr. Todd?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, and now we are going to move on to the Nottingham Fire District Number 7. I would like to welcome the commissioners from Nottingham. Any statement that you wish to make in opening?
Yeah, we'll be keeping our news out of Redis, Treasurer of Fire District Number 7. It's Rob Havens, Secretary Havens, President. I want to apologize first, there was a communication gap somewhere with our chief.
Yeah, we apologize if there was any communication.
I was always a little meeting, so I turned around and was like,
Thank you.
apologize, I'm not 100% prepared.
Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you for joining us.
Just quickly, obviously, council reviewed the budget. There's a couple things. We had the lowest rate in the township. We are cap compliant. In 2015, the rate was 15 cents. Now it's 16 cents. We're fortunate that we have a lot of rateables.
I'm sorry, Commissioner, can you repeat that?
We are fortunate that we have a lot of rateables in our district.
Is the headlight on in the microphone, maybe I'll...
Hit the button. Now, we'll record the rest of your comments for posterity. You were picking them up. Okay, good.
So, I don't know where you lost me or where you were.
The rate.
Yeah, the
actually?
rate was 15 cents in 2015, and currently in 2020, it's 16 cents. So overall, we've been flat for 5 years, with little or no increase. We've been cap compliant every year, going back for 2 years. The budget's tight, did a lot of things. It's only gone up 1 penny since 2016, our budget. A lot of things are out of our control, which I'm sure you've been through this with the other district before us. I don't know, just to speed this up, I'll start where you want to go and be, and we'll go from there at this point. I mean, I could consider defend this for hours, but.
Yeah, and we appreciate that you guys did your due diligence and, obviously have done an excellent job of holding the line on taxes for your taxpayers in your district. What we are looking for is, in light of, the impending consolidation, we want to be especially prudent. So we're looking for any areas where if there are savings that you can identify, any suggestions that you have, and I know it's a difficult thing to ask of you, to identify cuts in your own budget, because you've gone over it with a fine-tooth comb, but we want your input, obviously. You have been doing this for many years. And we want to take into account your expertise in this, as we look for ways to, save the taxpayers a little more money.
Right. Yeah, I mean, just looking through the budget, we don't have any capital purchases, capital budget, we don't have any major expenses out of the ordinary. It would just be finding a line item that we could shave. Again, it's a budget, so nothing's exact on where you're gonna have at the end of the year. But certainly we'll end up short. Whether we're still, it's our budget or your budget, and I'm sure you don't want to, cut your nose to spite your face either.
Right.
July or whenever this new undertaking is going to happen. So, I mean, one of our biggest line items is maintenance, obviously, and repairs, but that's an unknown because just like your own vehicle at home or what have you, never know when and how and what have you.
How old's your truck?
Yeah, the ladder tower, it needs to be replaced. We were gonna put it in the a question 2 or 3 years ago, but then with all those going on, we waited, but it's 2007.
How old is it? It's a 2007,
Yeah,
so it's a 12-year-old, 13-year-old.
You just passed, yeah, it's over 100,000 miles, and it's the busiest truck in the township, so the thing runs every day. I mean,
Yeah.
from here to Robbinsville to Allentown.
Goes all over.
It goes down today, too.
It did go down.
Yeah, so what we're finding is every time that it does go down, the expenses are more, I would say, catastrophic, but they're not just simple little things.
I know that on a truck that old,
Yeah. Right.
it can run you, the maintenance, upwards of $70,000 per year
100%.
for a truck like that.
Yeah. And then a cost-saving measure a couple of years ago, the pump, because a ladder truck does not have to have a pump for water, and the pump was not going to pass the testing required, and the amount of money to fix it would have been ridiculous for a truck that size. We took the pump out of service, redesignated the truck to a truck 17. It's a ladder, which is an FPA spec, in order to save taxpayers money and us a lot of money, and put the truck out of service for an extended period of time. So we've been doing what we can to get it through.
Does council have any questions for the commissioners? Any members of council, anything jumping out at you?
So I'm trying to go through it.
I know, there are a variety of perspectives here, so I'd like to hear from our council members. If there's anything that...
Budget's pretty tight.
Yeah.
So,
Just one question. Add the one item that 6366 repairs and maintenance, that line item.
What'd you say, 6366?
Yeah, it's on page 3 of 3 of the proper law.
Maintenance,
Yeah. I mean, a couple months in, you think that's over budgeted by amount,
Yeah, that's the one, into that I was talking about, that we have, 100,000 in there, obviously that's for a 12-month, cycle. I mean, if this doesn't go 12 months, then obviously, right. And that's what I was saying, being a statement, is looking at all the line items in the budget. If we were gonna take from any line, it would be from that line.
Okay.
And then if other budgets were under, or other line items were under budget, we could always move them to later dates.
Yes, sir.
Certainly, can't lose 50,000 from that line.
Right, right,
I mean, $500 is one.
yeah. What's that? That was a fast one. That was one that I saw,
I mean, are you looking for percentage reduction, just a, flat rate reduction? I wasn't here for the prior meetings, just because I wasn't aware of the meeting, but I don't know where, the thought process is.
So, we are looking for any help that you can give us to, identify savings without, affecting your operational preparedness. That's what we're trying to, obviously, it's, it's like, the eye of the needle, right? So,
and let's be honest, some of the cuts that we're gonna call for today, I mean, it's gonna be hard to really move that tax rate anywhere, right? I mean, it's not gonna.
I don't have it in front of me, but a penny is.
Yeah. Penny's like, yeah.
Right, and.
Can we go back to that $100,000 you said was there for the repairs and maintenance?
Yes.
On 2019, the adopted budget was also $100,000, correct?
Yes.
And was any of that used, or
That's fine.
do you know what percentage or how much out of that? I was looking
That
at
would be good,
it.
though.
Maybe if we could stay consistent from last year,
that'd be fine.
because there's somewhere to start.
what's the number?
Well, that's what I'm asking them.
Yeah, he's gonna
Same
start,
number?
the same,
$100,000?
what was that, the same line item, 6366?
There's 100,000 for repairs and maintenance, it was 100,000 last year, there's 100,000, so I said, how much of 100,000 this year?
Yeah, how much was,
If we only got half,
it was used?
Trying to find that sheet.
That's a good start.
Oh, no, this is the information that they gave us,
Was that 2020?
profit and loss.
Oh, this page was in that one.
I just have the 20, right?
I can't find the exact breakdown for 19, it was budgeted for 100, I don't know the actual, expenditure was.
Do you think it was close to 100, or
It
do
was
you?
probably very close, yeah, because like I said, the maintenance, especially with the ladders, been really, it's a lot. You would feel confident we can.
Can you live with 10 off of it? Can you live with 10 off of it to 90?
10% you want to take off of that line. Just let's make a deal. Yeah, that's what we have to do, and that's, going to satisfy council and what have you. We're fine with that.
I noticed that, you guys definitely are tight with your numbers, so it's been hard for us to identify. One thing, that I wanted to ask you about, you purchase gas from the BP. Wouldn't there be a cost savings if you purchased your gas from the township?
The cost savings would be pennies, but we don't pay tax at BP. The other issue that we have is, we don't feel it's necessary to run from Mercer Street all the way over to South Fulton Avenue. Wear and tear fees, we're not out of service, but the distance coming all the way back from the square.
Might
if you're out
negate the
on- if you're out on
savings.
another call, it's one thing, if you're out for service, but to be out there,
You know the difference in the cost of the gas with the township versus at BP?
you know what, it's funny, when we've had to use township gas, there's been times where the township gas has been a penny or two higher. And.
Is that right?
Yeah, it fluctuates.
So it's not always necessarily a savings at all?
Correct, because I know during certain storms,
Okay.
times when BP was,
All right, well, there goes that idea.
yeah. And we don't have any debt service, in
Yeah.
the district, there's no debt service, I don't know if you saw that, so I mean, we're in really great shape when you guys do take over, I mean, you're not gonna be left with a lot of surprises or what have you, it's funny.
And
We've
we
been on this
appreciate
town
that.
For years and, what have you, so.
You were spending that when you are going to get hired, could freeze some of that.
Mhm. Thank you. So we've identified 10,000. Does anybody have any other comments, concerns, questions?
I guess the other one item was, the other one was 6314, the overtime vacation sick.
Yes.
I mentioned this at the last one, that we had in District 6. Anything there, I mean, what do you think that,
That's a pretty accurate number.
because you're looking already at, what are we at? 10, for that one, 6314, the total is about 10%, so 99.4.
And the reason that is accurate is I think we underfunded because obviously man hours of sick time, vacation time, they're allowed, obviously sick time is for sick time, but the vacation is obviously figured in there. The only unknown is sick time, but there is money in reserves for that, so that number is pretty solid. If you look through this, I mean, water fees, insurance, pensions, I mean, they're all fixed costs, that no matter who's gonna write the budget, they're fixed costs that
I saw that,
and
yeah.
you can't change. Out of all these budgets, 98% of them are fixed costs. Whether someone can buy a new truck or get new gear or do something, these fire budgets have been like this for years. I mean, they're fixed. I mean, essentially, your hands are tied up what you can actually change. So, which we'll come to find out soon enough.
So you mentioned, you're on a hiring freeze?
Well,
Are you short firefighters at
we're
the?
not sure firefighters now, we're fully staffed, and, we had hired a fireman, a new fireman at a lower rate, because we're waiting on a potential, veteran firefighter retiring. So we have him filling overtime shifts on a day if somebody calls out. And then obviously his rate's a lot lower than the guy with 25 years on the job, so we already have that in place to move forward.
Is that something we can talk about, or do we need to go into executive session to discuss a personnel matter?
If you're going to discuss, a person.
We're not gonna name names, but we're just gonna talk generally about,
Give me 1 second, let me just look it up.
thank you, Counselor.
From what I'm seeing, any matter involving employment, appointment, termination of employment, terms and conditions of employment, evaluation, promotion, or disciplining of any prospective or current public officer employed or appointed by the public body.
Okay.
So if you are discussing a specific person, you're discussing the particulars of their employment, I believe that you were able to go,
Only if we're naming names.
Yes.
If we don't name names, we can discuss it in an open council meeting, or,
let me go to NJ. Let me look up one additional thing, just give me 1 second.
so, you know what we could do better, to be better safe than sorry? Why don't we, do we need a motion to go into executive session? So can I have a motion to go into executive session?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Madam Clerk?
Mr. Whalen?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Carvelli?
Yes.
Reparo?
Yes.
Mr. Todd?
Yes. So I believe we have one gentleman who is not a commissioner.
I'm going home.
All right, sir. I was going to say if you wanted to step out into the hall for a moment while we discussed it. Thank you, sir.
We should go to the other room for executive session.
We're going to go to the other room for executive session. I've been advised by the clerk that we need to go, even though we're reconvene, or we're okay? All right, so we're going to reconvene, and
Mr. Bendis, my question, because I've been going back and forth, obviously, money's tight for everybody, so we've been trying to find small ways to kind of come to an agreement. I noticed on the form that you provided, the notes for council. Bless you. The one line item that did increase higher than the 10% was the salary wages, went up 10.4%.
They did on paper.
Yes.
I will explain that to you.
So my question, if I could, would be, do you see that trend continuing? Because I also look at the adopted budget from 19 to what you're proposing is up a little over 100,000. So what I was just looking at is, do you see that trend to continue? Is it something that you see would trend in a different manner? Are we looking at the same number of employees? Is there any help you can give us with that?
Yeah, so,
Without giving any specifics, we don't need any personal or want any personal information. We just want a trend as far as how many firefighters you have and what you perceive going forward.
And what's with how much certainty?
well, just to answer that question, at any time, there's many guys, multiple guys who retired for their papers in. So whether they don't even have to give us notice, so just be aware of that, there could be multiple guys at any time. But, there may be one sooner than later here. To explain the 10%, the only line item in the budget was higher than 10% of salary wages, which is 10.4. Those numbers did not increase that amount. Salary and wages only went up 49,000 in 2020, which is roughly 2.7%. Just the long and short, the increase in the budget was to bring it closer on paper. In the past, just was the way they had done the budget and what have you. Instead of taking 500 from this line item, 1,000 from this line item, since the salaries and wages was the largest item, we would take that 49,000 off, distribute it so that we didn't have to sit there and nickel and dime every little line item. And that's the reason. So on paper, it does say 10 point, but in actuality, it was only 2.7% for 2020. And at the end of this budget, everything will be balanced moving forward.
So with that 2.7, that's a total cost out? That's with everybody moving through the salary guide, as well as the members at the top getting their steps as well, or the raises?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's actually a low cost out.
So. And to answer your other question, we have one fire chief, 4 captains, and 15 firefighters, and 1 fire marshal. And we have part-time inspectors that are not full-time.
So with that said, again, without giving any personal information, are you aware of anybody that has given their notice that they would retire? Because that's also going to be a savings to the district as well.
No, sir, not at this time.
Thank you.
And the other thing to understand too, in our budget, we do incur a little bit additional expenses because currently we do all the fire inspections and fire code enforcement for the entire township. District 7 oversees the entire township. That was a shared services thing that I was actually involved in years ago, myself and a couple of our commissioners. And, it started off with assuming 1 district, then 2, and then currently as of last year, we did the resolutions. Right now, District 7 provides fire prevention for the entire township. So that's all under one roof, under one house, which has been a cost savings, and it also has been more beneficial because effectively, not that it's being done correctly, I'm not saying that it wasn't in the past, but through more time and energy. In the past, guys were on a truck, assigned to a truck, and then they were trying to do inspections in between. Now we have the part-timers, and our fire marshals are only doing that. So obviously, when you're only doing one task, the efficiency is a lot better, so.
One more question. The fringe benefits, I do see a slight increase in that also. What do you perceive that to go, strike that. When a firefighter retires from District 7, what is the payment in retirement for firefighters?
Payment for?
Chapter 78. For benefits. Do you know what percentage? Is it 1.5%? Is it?
Without giving you wrong information, Pat, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I could probably, in front of me, I just have to find it. I wasn't.
Well, it would be contractual, so I'm not sure that it would be in here.
Okay. Did you say chapter?
Well, there would be obviously there's a big difference between a Chapter 78 payment is going to be the total cost of the premium for the health benefits package for an individual or their family. Different districts I know do pay, some in retirement are paid for the firefighter, and some, the firefighter has to contribute towards either the 1.5% or the Chapter 78 standards, which will be 4 phases. It's 4 steps, totaling, it's based on your salary.
Yeah, I believe our contract, is attached to, years of service at that district, because we've had guys transfer, and maybe not have, I don't know if it's 20 or 25, I'm sure the gentleman behind me may know.
So but you're paying the Chapter 78, thank you, okay.
Okay.
Just Pat, let me, just for clarification, so not every district pays their health insurance?
Not every district is treated the same.
The same?
They're all treated, well, not all treated differently, there are
They have their own,
different salary guides,
Right.
there's different benefit packages,
Right.
there's different payments.
okay.
That's what the consolidation is gonna fix.
So we've identified $10,000 in savings. Is there, are there any ideas for additional savings from council?
I don't,
Coffee.
Coffee.
No, I'm joking.
I don't know if there's much more, left.
So, do we want to pass this budget with a $10,000 reduction?
As long as my council mates feel comfortable, I would make the motion to pass the budget.
I'll second that.
Madam
I
Clerk?
just want to clarify, so you're taking the 10,000 from which line item?
That's from
We're
repairs
going
and,
back from the previous one?
We're just on the repairs and maintenance.
6366.
What page are you on? Peter?
Page 3 of 3.
Oh, yeah, so
There you
where in
go.
the budget document?
You want it?
Is
Elaine?
where we're taking it from. I have this, but I'm saying where in the budget document
Oh,
is that number contained? Is that what, that's what you have to amend, is the line item?
Would,
And it's in,
What was the number we were taking it from? On your
it's on F,
file?
it was under
This
F3,
one?
page
F3?
F3.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
F3 was, third of the way down.
Right, F1?
yeah.
Operations and maintenance.
Yeah, F1.
It's also under F.
Under appropriations, total cost of operations and maintenance, the amount of $4,027,359, is that the number you're using? Am I incorrect?
I'm looking at cost of operations and maintenance under other, and straight across was other operations and maintenance, expense number 2, repairs and maintenance.
Yeah, so under the total, yeah, so on F3, you had it right. Total operations and maintenance, $4,027,359.
Okay, and you're taking it from which line item above?
Above that is other operations and maintenance, expense number 2, repairs and maintenance, correct?
Yes.
And we're reducing that by
From
$10,000.
$100,000 to $90,000?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so noted.
Okay, so we've had a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll? It was moved by Pat and seconded by Anthony.
On the motion, Ms. Phillips, I'm sorry, Mr. Whalen?
yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Carabelli?
Yes.
Mr. Reparo?
Yes.
Mr. Todd?
Yes.
Passes 5-0.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your service.
Thank you for your time,
Thank you.
ladies, appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
The future drivers.
Thank you.
You need it.
It's on record. I was looking for, it's on record.
For F3 on mine, but
Only motion to close.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We need a motion to close, right?
Yeah.
Meeting's adjourned.
Well, here's the thing, do you want us to go do that resolution? We can go do that, you can have formally adopt the resolution for 7 tonight. You wanna do that, or do you wanna adopt it tomorrow night? Your preference?
We can do it tomorrow night.
Okay.
Can do it tomorrow night, that's fine.
Okay, so I just need a motion to adjourn, please.